Now, if you've been following us on Instagram, you would have seen me the other day unboxing these bad boys, the new MTL Long Sky 2 Matryx from Merrell. They actually arrived from Merrell in this very cool looking presentation box. They explained all the features of this new trail running shoe. Also in that box contained a little drawer down the bottom that had some Merrell goodies in it. So I got a matching bright pink shoe bag and multi-wrap, which was a real pleasant surprise. This is actually the third shoe this year, I think, that has featured this Matryx upper, so this durable fabric is becoming very popular in the trail running world, and I am a big fan of this colorway. I love the bright pink, bright orange and white option. But let's dive into the video. I'm going to break down this new trail shoe in a bit more detail, then we're going to be lacing them up and taking them out for their first run. Welcome back everyone, hope life is treating you well and thanks for joining us for another video. I'm Lloyd Purvis and this is Run4Adventure. So a big shout out to Merrell for sending through the new MTL Long Sky 2 Matryx. It really is appreciated. Now, a lot of you guys will know that I'm a big fan of their Agility Peak 5. It really is a trail shoe that works so good for me and there's lots of content featuring that shoe on the channel. However, when I tested out their racier Skyfire 2, I didn't really get on with that shoe and it was just a little bit too stripped back when it came down to midsole cushioning and protection. I mean, what can I say? I'm getting older these days and I do like a bit of comfort in my trail running shoes. So I think it's great that we've been sent these because I reckon that the MTL Long Sky 2 Matryx kind of sits between those two previously mentioned Merrell trail shoes. So I'm really interested to see how this feels and performs out on the trails. Just before we do that, let's give you a few specs. We're going to break down this new construction in a bit more detail. And first up is price point. So these retail in the UK for £155, but you can also get a standard version of the Long Sky 2, and that comes without this Matryx upper, and that's a slightly cheaper retail price of £135. It's a nicely weighted running shoe, tipping the scales at only 261 grams in a UK 9.5. We've got a total stack height of 23.5 at the heel and 19.5 under the forefoot, giving you a 4mm drop on the heel. And then if I flip them over to reveal this impressive looking, aggressively lugged 5mm outsole design, which utilises the very grippy Vibram Mega Grip rubber. So like I've already mentioned, this is the Matryx version of the MTL Long Sky 2, and they really have gone to town when it comes to this lightweight, breathable, abrasion resistance fabric. So this should be a very, very durable trail running shoe. Because this has been designed for running quickly over technical terrain and it's had lots of input from Merrell's elite athletes, they've tried to keep the weight down to a bare minimum. So we've got a very thin, gusseted tongue design inside that upper, so I've got my fingers crossed that it's going to offer enough padding and enough comfort across the top of my foot when I pull those laces down tight for today's run. Again, just like that tongue design, the ankle and heel are pretty stripped back, so there's not a lot of padding there, but we do have a good bit of structure from this nice substantial heel cup. We've got overlays and underlays on the upper, starting at the heel, wrapping around those lace eyelets and the toe box, just to give this upper a bit of structure, but also to give the foot a little bit more support. And then finishing up, we've got a pretty standard looking lacing system, but it does come with this handy elasticated band, so you can stow those laces away underneath it to stop them getting snagged when you're running out on the trails. The midsole utilises Merrell's Float Pro foam, and this is actually a dual compound setup, so if I push into the heel there, it is a little bit softer than what we get under the forefoot, but it is very, very slight. However, there's definitely a bit more substance in this midsole when I compare it to the more stripped back Skyfire 2. So I'm really hoping that this is going to offer me a bit more comfort and a bit more underfoot protection when we hit the trails later. And we mustn't forget the all important outsole, and this looks like a really well thought out design. So we've got a 5mm lug depth. I personally think that is a really good lug depth to have on a trail running shoe because it means it's going to be consistent on most terrains and it can pretty much handle anything you throw at it. We got got this nice chunky forward facing chevrons on the forefoot, reverse facing chevrons on the heel, so traction should be really good in this shoe. And then obviously that is clad, like we mentioned, in the sticky Vibram Mega Grip rubber. Vibram rubber really seems to be dominating the trail running world, with lots of brands crossing over to use it, and I can totally understand why, because this is a top performing rubber compound. So there it is, folks, the very good looking MTL Long Sky 2 Matryx from Merrell. Although I don't think it's going to be so good looking by the end of today's run, because we are having some shocking weather here in the UK. It's raining and raining and raining and raining and raining a bit more, and the trails are so wet and muddy at the moment. I don't know about running at springtime, it's more like running in the depths of winter, which I suppose isn't a bad thing, because it's going to be great conditions for testing out a shoe like this, especially when it comes to the outsole. So speaking of testing, I'm going to go off and get ready. We're going to lace these up and let's get running. Okay, so we have come up to the North Cliffs for today's run. You can see we got some pretty good weather at the moment, blue sky, sunshine, and this is a mega place to run when the weather's like this. The views are spectacular over the North Cliffs and out into the ocean, and we haven't had a lot of good weather recently, so I'm making the most of it. However, it is due to change. So the plan is we're going to head out on the North Cliffs. We're going to go to the dips, or the bitches as we call them in Cornwall. So we're going to get some elevation on today's run. And then I think there's rain coming later, so we're going to cut into Tahiti Woods for a bit of protection. But it's also going to give us lots of different underfoot conditions to give this shoe a thorough testing. It might be blue sky and sunshine, but there's still a pretty cold wind, so hopefully the audio is okay. So like I said, we're going to head on the coast path, cut into Tahiti, but first up, the shoe is feeling nice straight out of the box. So true to size on length, it fits on length very similar to the Agility Peak 5, although it does feel like the toe box is a little bit roomier, so there's a bit more width there, and that feels very comfortable. It is a little bit more stripped back than the Agility Peak 5, but definitely a bit more underfoot as far as cushioning and protection compared to the Skyfire 2. So yeah, first impressions are really good. Obviously it's early days, we're only 2 miles into the run, and it's been a nice firm compacted trail. So let's get out in the dips and let's give this shoe a thorough testing. So a quick running uphill top tip while I catch my breath. If you're going up a steep climb like this, where you've got a mixture of big steps, but you've also got some flat trail running aside it, switch it up. So run a few of the steps, then go onto the flatter trail. Just switches up those muscle groups, so it really does help to break it up a bit. So going up the big steps, you're going to be working your quads and your glutes, and then you switch to that flatter trail, you're going to be working on those smaller muscle groups in the lower leg. So it just helps fatigue, and I've done it for years and it really does make a difference. But anyway, we better get running. That is the first of the dips done. We got another 2 to go. And then we got to come back the other way, obviously. That is the 3 dips done, and I definitely need to get some more hill training in before we head to Scotland. I haven't been out this way for a long time. I haven't been getting lazy, I've been running well, but maybe neglecting the hill work. So note to self, more hill work, but let's get off the coast path and get into Hiddy Woods. So my beautiful looking Merrell trail shoes aren't looking so beautiful anymore. I spent the first part of the run on the coast path tiptoeing around puddles and mud to try and keep them clean because I love the look of this shoe. I had to give it up into Hiddy. It was super wet in there again and they are covered in mud and they're going to need a good clean off when I get home. So the run is going well. We're just cutting across the fields from to Hiddy Woods back to the coast path. We're what, 9.5 miles in, so it's going to be just over 10 miles by the time we get back to the adventure bus. So really good first outing for a new shoe. I'd like to say my legs feel good, but they have felt a bit heavy today. Obviously we had to run the dips out on the coast path and I ran late last evening, so I think my legs are feeling a little bit fatigued. I've got to say though, I am really surprised with how the MTL Long Sky 2 is performing today. You know, I put it on at home and I had a good idea of how it was going to feel. That upper gave me a really nice secure foot hugging feel and felt great on indoors. But having run in that Skyfire 2 and being a bit disappointed with the level or the lack of cushioning and protection, you know, I took a lot of sort of impact through that midsole and it felt quite uncomfortable on more compacted and rocky trails. This has been the complete opposite. Really good level of cushioning and quite a lot of underfoot protection, even though the midsoles in the two shoes look very similar. But we got about half a mile to go until we get back to the adventure bus. So let's get back to the studio and then we can wrap this video up with a quick conclusion. Okay, well that was one of those first runs in a new shoe that came as a bit of a surprise because the Merrell MTL Long Sky 2 Matryx ran way better than I was expecting, but look at them. Look at my poor, beautiful new shoes, all covered in mud. I brushed them off when I got back to the adventure bus. Haven't had time to clean them properly, but I've got my fingers crossed that when I do, they wash up well. The first thing we need to talk about is the fit of this upper on my foot shape because it really does fit me like a glove. That great lockdown around my midfoot, real sort of foot hugging design. I was a little bit worried about this thin gusseted tongue design, but I shouldn't have been because those laces were very comfortable across the top of my foot. Another thing that I really liked is the actual laces themselves. Now, I know a pair of running shoe laces seems like a pretty simple thing, right? And I suppose it is, but these laces have got a nice bit of texture about them and they actually feel quite rough on your fingers when you're lacing the shoe down, but I think it's the texture that really helps. So, you know, I pulled those laces down at the start of the run to lock that shoe around my midfoot and it stayed locked down the whole way. And like I said, I think the texture plays a big part in that. And in fact, this upper was as secure at the end of 10 miles as it was at the start of the run. I mentioned out there today that I really enjoyed the width in this toe box. Now, I wouldn't call it a wide fitting shoe, but there's definitely a little bit more wiggle room there when I compare it to the width of my Agility Peak 5s and quite a lot more width when I compare it to the Skyfire 2, which is a pretty narrow fitting shoe. However, maybe it would have been nice to have a little bit more padding around the ankle collar and in the heel cup. Not that it was uncomfortable at all out there on the run, but if I was up in the distance running longer, maybe a little bit more padding in the back of that upper would be nice. Moving down, and again, really impressed with the overall feel and performance of this dual compound Float Pro foam midsole. For a relatively low stack height and a pretty stripped back trail running shoe, it actually offered me a good level of comfort underfoot, and that was a real pleasant surprise out there on today's this run, and we had a big mix of terrain, so quite a bit of sort of hard compacted trail. We had rocky coast path and rooted woodland trail to deal with, and at no point did I feel that this midsole was under cushioned in any way. Also got a pretty good flex to the shoe, and it offered me a nice level of underfoot protection, and even when I was bombing down those rocky descents on the coast path there, no discomfort at all. And I definitely couldn't say that about the Skyfire 2 after testing them out on the channel. And last but not least, the outsole, and just as I thought, it took everything in its stride. So this Vibra Mega Grip rubber, super grippy on all surfaces, and I got really good levels of traction from this 5mm chevron lug pattern. It performed really well even in those deep sections of mud into hilly wood. So all in all, just a top performing, really good feeling first run in the MTL Long Sky 2 Matryx. I would say if you're a big fan of the Agility Peak 5 like I am, you're looking for a trail shoe that's going to offer you a similar sort of feel and fit, but it's going to feel a little bit more nimble, a bit lighter, a bit more responsive, then these are definitely worth a closer look. I will be trying to take these out for a long run test soon, because at the end of that 10 miles, my feet and these shoes felt great. So I think for a relatively lightweight stripped back trail running shoe, these can handle distance pretty well. And I don't think I'd have a problem running this shoe up to say 50 miles. So keep your eyes peeled. Hopefully a long run test in the MTL Long Sky 2 Matryx coming to the channel soon. So there you have it, folks, my first and very surprising run in this new trail shoe from Merrell. Really hope you enjoyed the video, really hope you found it helpful. If you do have any more questions about the shoes, please feel free to get in the comments below and we'll try and get back to as many of them as possible. And don't forget, if you have enjoyed the video, to like, comment, share and subscribe. So I'm off to try and clean these shoes up properly and make them look all pretty again. But for now, thanks for watching, it really is appreciated. We'll be back on the channel very soon, and as always, stay safe and keep on running. They explained all the features of this new trail shoe. Now, if you follow us on Instagram, you'd have seen me the other day unboxing these bad boys, the new Merrell MTL Long Sky 2 Matryx. They actually arrived from Merrell. And it offered me some good underfoot protection. So even when I was running down those steep, rocky, PT Thin Lloyd.